Hello everyone, welcome to our little video lesson on how to use your calculator to calculate tangents. It's nice that Fred puts his little chart of tangents in the book, but let's face it, we are much more likely to have a calculator on hand than we are to have Fred's book. So I am going to show you what it looks like on my calculator, and then you should pull out your calculator and see what you can find. There are two special buttons that we need to find, and here is mine. Mine says tan right there. That stands for tangent. And in little tiny yellow letters up above that, I don't know if you can read it, but it says tan minus 1. And the minus 1 is kind of up in the air, so it looks like this. Tan minus 1. Okay? So these are opposites of each other. Your tan button versus your tan minus 1, those are opposites. And I'm going to show you how you can use those buttons to calculate things. So the first option that you get, or the first type of tangent problem that you might run into, is that you know the angle value, or the measurement of the angle, but must calculate the sides. So let's take a look at an example. Here's an example. So here is my handy dandy triangle, and I have my vertex A is marked, so I know what vertex we're talking about. And I know that A is a 70-degree angle. I also know that this side is 5. So I can now calculate the length of this opposite side. Here's how I would go about doing that. I would say, okay, so the tangent of A equals opposite over adjacent, right? So the tangent of 70 equals opposite, which is an unknown, so we'll call it x, over the adjacent, which is 5. Okay, that's the first thing that you have to do, is you have to set it up properly. Okay, so now watch how I'm putting tan 70 in parentheses. That's because I'm about to move this 5 over next to the 70, and I just want to be sure that you keep those numbers separate, that you don't start thinking that it's 705 or something like that. So we have tan 70 times 5, so I'm multiplying both sides by 5, gives me just x. You could think of it this way. You want to get x by itself. Right now, x is being divided by 5. The opposite of 5 is to multiply. So I will multiply this side by 5, and my 5 goes away over here. All right, so now if you pull out your handy-dandy calculator and you turn it on, and then, I hope you can see that, then you say, okay, tan, and then I get a little parenthesis, so it looks like this, in case you can't see it. It looks like that. And I type in 70, and then I type my end parentheses, and I hit equals, and I get this really long, ugly number, 2.747477419. I'm just going to multiply that by 5. I'm not even going to clear my calculator. Times 5 equals 13.74, roughly. Okay, it almost equals. So that means that on this triangle, this length right here is about 13.74. Now please notice, this is not an exact number. If you were trying to land a spaceship on Mars, you need to do a much better job of calculating your tangent than 13.74. However, for our purposes, that works just fine. Let's do another one. Okay, this time our triangle looks like this. And we know that that is a right angle. And here is our A. And we know that our opposite side has a value of 10. And we know that A has a value of 56. Okay, so let's get calculating. So we know that the tangent of A equals opposite over adjacent, right? This is our formula. And so I write that out there just so that I don't accidentally make a mistake. That means that the tangent of 56 equals what's opposite, which is 10, over what's adjacent, which is unknown. So I'm going to call it x. All right, so again, I'm trying to get x by itself. X right now is in the denominator. I hate that. So I'm going to move it over here by multiplying both sides by x. So now I have tan 56 times x equals 10. All right, now I'm still trying to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by tan 56. And my new and improved formula is x equals 10 over, oops, that should be there, tan 56. So I'm going to pull out my calculator, and I'm going to clear it, and then I'm going to say, let's try to do this without so much glare. Okay, 10 divided by tan 56 end parentheses equals. And I get this ugly number, which is 6.7451 about. What that means is that this line segment right here is about 6.7451 units long. This one is 10 units, and this one is this funky number. All right, so that is what you do if you know the angle value and you have to calculate the sides. So you use the tangent function to calculate the sides. What if, however, they make it a little bit trickier and they do this situation where you know the sides, but must calculate the angle. Okay, so let's do an example of this. So let's say that we have a triangle here, and we know that it's a right angle, and we know that this is our A vertex. They have to tell you. Sometimes it's going to be down here, sometimes it's going to be up there. They just have to pick which one they want you to focus on. And then we know that the opposite side is 6 and the adjacent side is 14. Now, if I needed to, I could go ahead and calculate the value of my hypotenuse, right? Because I could use the Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. However, the formula to figure out the tangent of A does not require me to know the hypotenuse. I just need opposite over adjacent. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to say, okay, tan minus 1, that's the inverse or the opposite of a tangent calculation, is going to equal 6 over 14. So in other words, the opposite divided by the adjacent. So now when I do this in my calculator, I have to do a second function, tan. So now I get tan negative 1. Some of you might get this. Your calculator might say 1 over tan. Same thing. So I do tangent, the inverse tangent, and then when my parenthesis comes up, I do 6 divided by 14 in parentheses equal. And I get 23.19 about. That means that this angle right here is 23.19 degrees about. Remember, if you're landing a spaceship on Mars, you need a more precise answer, but this will do for our purposes. Okay, let's do one more just to make sure you've gotten the hang of it. Let's say that you have a triangle that looks like this. And we know that this side is a 4, and we know that this side is a 25, and we know that this is our angle A. So we know the opposite and the adjacent. We need to calculate the A. So when we're calculating the angle, we use the inverse tan function, which again is either written tan to the -1 or 1 over tan. So you find that button on your calculator and you say, all right, that is going to equal 4 opposite over 25. So again, I take my calculator and I type in inverse tangent of 4 divided by 25, in parentheses, equal. So the measurement of my angle is 9.09, which means that this length, that this angle, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. This angle right here measures about 9.09 degrees. So that is how you calculate tangents using your calculator. Again, you need to find a calculator and keep it now because you need to learn what buttons your calculator has. Different buttons or different calculators have slightly different buttons, so you want to be real familiar with the one that you own. All right, that is the end of this lesson. Let's go do some problems.